Okay, we are back working on my Mercedes 220e. So I've still got that niggling electrical problem, and I say niggling electrical problem, it's actually quite a major electrical problem, seeing as I can't start the car and drive it anywhere. So I'm going to try and just get a bit further along with this now, because I'm absolutely gagging to drive this car on the road. So let's have a real quick summary where we are. So I changed the over voltage protection relay right up there, and all of the lights now come on the dash. Everything kind of turns on when there's no key in the ignition, with the battery connected, but no key in the ignition, which is completely bonkers. I had a lot of comments on the last video, a lot of people saying, yeah, it's a short, you want to check in the ignition barrel, because obviously it sounds like an ignition issue, doesn't it, if the key's not in there but all the lights are on and everything's happening. But then there was also a bunch of people who quite rightly pointed out that the only thing that I've actually changed on this car is that over voltage protection relay, OVP relay. So it makes sense to switch it back to this one that was in there initially. Don't know what that was. Something on my neck. So what was I saying? Oh yeah. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to change it back to the one that was in there initially. Neither of these two OVP relays are the original Mercedes item. They're both third party. But because, you know, this madness with the lights on the dash only started when I changed the relay, it might be that my cheap Chinese relay, you know, is basically exactly that, a cheap Chinese relay, and it just doesn't work. Okay, so there's the OVP relay back in. This is the one that I removed. So I've put the fuel pump relay back in as well. So I think what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to reconnect the battery, just see what we've got. Nothing happens at all, which is a good sign, actually. that's exactly what we want. Let's have a look in the car. Okay, no lights on the dash, so it very much looks as though that second replacement OVP relay I bought is naff. That cost me £60, and I think I'm now outside of the return window. Oh great, I'll try and send it back anyway. I don't know what to say then. What do I do? I'm just going to start the engine, see what happens. Okay, everything's come back to life now, properly, when you turn the ignition. That's what you'd expect. I'm just going to let it settle just for a bit, just like this, see what happens. Okay, so I'm in here and the fuel pump relay isn't clicking. None of the fuel system sounds or feels like it's activating like it was before. There is a buzzing noise. Let me find where that's coming from. Yeah, it's this throttle body again. It's just buzzing. I mean, someone tell me if these just buzz all the time like that. Listen. Is it normal for it to just constantly do that? I've just got the key in ignition, I've just turned the ignition on. I'm starting to think now this might be a throttle body kind of problem, or maybe an air sensor problem or something. Maybe something's cutting off air or fuel to the engine, isn't it? Right, let's just see if she starts then. She does start. We've got fuel as well, we've got about a quarter of a tank of fuel. Okay, she idles down. So I'm just going to leave this running and we can watch it in real time, see how long it takes to cut out. Also, I think you saw the state of some of this wiring in here. I think a very good idea is to buy myself a fire extinguisher and keep this in the car, because I honestly think that this car is just one massive fire hazard. It's just a death trap absolutely waiting to happen, and I don't want this car to burn to the ground. Okay, I'm bored of waiting, let's do something, let's just rev it at least. So I mean the revs well, it didn't idle down that much, did it? It's still at about 1100 RPM there. I'm just going to give it a few revs, see what happens. Okay, so it cut out about 10 seconds after I just cut the footage there. So this is still vibrating, the throttle body. Nothing else is kind of clunking or doing anything else. No relays are clicking, so that's good news. Right, so I was just in here. I was taking a quick look at the throttle body. I thought, let's check some of the cabling. And all of this in here looks absolutely fine. Now, remember that I said in one of the last videos, this engine has actually had a new wiring loom. It's not brand new, so a wiring loom was purchased off of a car in Europe and then transplanted into this car. So I was chatting to one of the previous owners of this car, if you remember, and he said one of the problems that he had with this wiring harness was that whatever car it came off of, it obviously had a couple of extra connectors shorting out different places in the engine. Now, you know, I can't see any just kind of like ends of cables or anything anywhere, so you know, I didn't really know what to do. But then I was just kind of poke my head in here a bit, and then so this is the wire here for the MAF sensor, so I just followed that back and I saw that a bit of this kind of black sheath stuff had come off of this. So I thought, oh, you know what, look, this is clearly, it's been cut there, right? It's been cut down there, so something's obviously happened in here at some point. So this might be some of the old some of the work that was done fitting this new wiring harness. So I've just opened it up and straight away there's just this cable here with a complete bare end to it that was just kind of tucked all in there like that. And so I peeled off some more of the black stuff, and underneath this other black sheath in there, you can see where, if I get that, so it starts up here, that's a brown wire, goes into this blue case in here, and then into this yellow, it turns into this yellow wire. So that looks clearly like where they've fused these two harnesses together, because this cable goes down here, and I'm pretty sure that actually goes straight into all this cabling here for the ECU. And well, that'd make sense, wouldn't it, because it's an airflow meter. So firstly, what is this random cable, and why is it just sitting in there like that, all open? And then secondly, I'm looking at it, and so this part of the cable, all of that sheathing in there, the actual plastic that goes around the wire, that looks in good condition. And then on, you know, I suppose the car side, it's all of this horrible sheathing again that I uncovered. You know, there's some down here that I've taped up, and where it's all just disintegrating. This is the eco wiring, and you can see again it's just all bare in there. That's bare, that wire there is bare. So could some of these cables in here actually just be shorting out onto one another and then cutting off or doing something bad with the air supply, or it's just shorting out, and then what's happening is the ECU is just going, no, I'm having none of that whatsoever. I'm getting all sorts of horrible error readings from the airflow meter, and then, you know, it's all just shutting down. It is such a mess. This wiring is absolutely horrendous. Well, I mean, what it really needs is just completely rewiring. It's not sustainable, because you can see what's going to happen. You're going to patch one bit, and then you're going to wait a month, and then another part's going to go. You're going to patch that, and then another part's going to go. Not only that, it's dangerous. Having all these shorts, you know, I'm no electrician, but I know enough to know that having a load of short circuits in your car, nope. I'm gonna just try and tape some of that up a bit, literally just with electrical tape. That wire that was hanging off, this one here, that's I mean, it doesn't look like it joins into anything. It does look like a surplus cable, because I can't see the other end of it in there. I'm just going to tape some of this up with electrical tape. I mean, yeah, trouble is, like, how far down there into this sheath does this problem go, though? Because these wires here, you see, look, there's two bits there that could easily be shorting out against one another. If you can see that, you know, the sheath is broken. But that might be happening all the way down this length, all the way down here into this connector for the thing. So, right, so what I did is I've just come in here, I've just got a load of electrical tape, and I just started winding it around all of those exposed bits of cable. However, I just started peeling this sheath back a little bit more. It's quite hard to see there, but there's a wire there right where my thumb is, and it's got the red and the blue sheathing. I mean, that there is actually just completely exposed cable. That's just completely bare, and it's sitting right up against this other wire there, right on the edge, that has a load of cabling exposed on it. And so I know now if I start cutting this black sheath off and following it down there, it's going to do that from this point here all the way down into, it's not that one, it's actually, I think it's this big one at the back. It's going to go all the way into there, you just know it. Right, so I just uncovered it a little bit more. Hopefully you can see all that exposed wire, and then you can also see just here above it, it's hard to do all this with one hand, you can see I'm sliding that black thing. Well, that black thing there is black electrical tape that looks like it was actually down there over that before. So it looks like that black tape, so someone's already tried to tape that up. Look, here's a bit of the sheathing, let it just come off in my hands. I've lost it. So someone's already tried to do that, and so it looks like whoever did replace this wiring harness, they saw that, they knew that was there, and they've just ignored it. So, you know, you can't, can you trust people these days anymore to do anything correctly? I don't know. Right, so I've patched this up, patched, lol. I've just wrapped it in a load of electrical tape, just all those individual strands where all the wires were showing, and I've capped that off with electrical tape. That's not capped off, I realise, but I'm just going to try and start the car again now, see what happens, see if it was anything to do with that at all. I'm not convinced. I mean, if that wiring's like that there, we could have wiring like that absolutely anywhere in all of here that might be doing something. In fact, this is still vibrating, just with the ignition on. Doesn't fill me with much hope, so I still think it's a lot to do with the throttle body, but let's just try it anyway and then we'll know for sure. Help if I plug the battery cable back onto the battery, wouldn't it? There we go, and it just cuts out. It's like the same amount of time every time, which gives me questions. You know, I question, why does this cut out after like the exact same amount of time? It runs completely fine, then it dies. It's almost like it's being, you know, when things are that repetitive, it sounds that's something a computer would do, right? There's something in here making, you know, shorting out, tripping, doing something, and the computer's just going, nope, having none of it, and just turning the engine off. I think that's what might be happening, but what do I know? And how the hell do I find out what's doing that? I don't have an OBD reader for this thing either. It doesn't, I don't know if it even has, well, it's definitely not OBD2, it's too old. I know you can get the banana pin plug flashy reader things, but I don't even know where that goes. This doesn't look like it even has any ports for it. Right, I don't know what that is. Right. Okay, so I just had a thought, and I imagine loads of you have just been screaming at the screen telling me to do this. But if I actually disconnect the MAF sensor there and start the car again, and if it behaves exactly the same, that's a good indication that this is actually at fault. Because if this isn't operating properly and it just behaves exactly the same, then yeah, I think you get what I'm saying. Probably shouldn't leave that resting on the fan like that. Put it somewhere else, a bit safer. Alright, that died straight away. Okay, so looks like I might have actually narrowed that down. That can't be that. try that again now with that connected and see if it starts. No. What the hell? Okay, it's actually the next day now, so I wanted to just let the engine just completely cool down, because I have noticed previously that when the engine starts warming up, that amount of time between starting the engine and it cutting out reduces. So I want to do it now while it's cold, because then I've got something to properly compare it to. So the MAF is unplugged, and I'm just going to start the engine now. Okay, so it's rough, but no rougher than it was. Revs are climbing, and back down. This is what it's doing before, so no different to when it's plugged in. Around about 1100, 1200 RPM there. I mean, here's the thing with it. Ah, there it went. Did you hear that? Okay, so that was actually the same amount of time before, because on the back of the camera I can see how long we're recording for, and that is the same amount of time. Right, so I think that means then that I have narrowed this issue down to the MAF sensor. But what I'm not sure about, I mean, I've got a good idea, but I'm not sure about, is it going to be that cable, or is it going to be the sensor itself? I mean, the cable is the thing that's absolutely screaming out to me, because we've already seen, right, just how destroyed all of this cabling is. So, I mean, it's unplugged, right? So, I mean, it's going to be this, isn't it? The only trouble with this cable, I've said it, is that I'm pretty sure this cable goes directly from here, from the plug, into this massive ECU connector. And the part of the cabling that's actually the worst is the bit from that connector up to where they've spliced this new plug on. And I've never done any wiring before, and I don't know how confident I'd even be trying to do some YouTube University and taking it apart at the ECU plug end. I've got some working out to do here. I mean, I will say this, YouTube University hasn't let me down yet. Well, a little bit with the bodywork, but largely it's been kind to me. Oh, God. Oh, did not want it to be that. I wanted it to just be the sensor so I could just switch it out. Right, it is another new day. I know these days are flying by, but I'm going to be honest with you, I'm in quite a perky mood right now. I don't know if you've seen in the news, but I've literally just seen it that there's going to be a new synthetic fuel used with Formula 1, I think in 2026, but a synthetic sustainable fuel. All right, this to me means three things. Number one, there is a God. Number two, he's a petrol head. Number three, hopefully governments across the world will, you know, lose their erection for electric cars, just like they did with diesel cars, and the regular internal combustion engine will live on. I mean, I wouldn't bet against it. I would not bet against internal combustion at this point. Right, anyway, so what I'm going to do now is I'm just want to, you know, it's easy for me to just say, oh yeah, all this wire in here is absolutely shot and I need to rewire it. But what I want to actually do now is I want to just get my multimeter and I just want to actually test the plug for the airflow setting, just to see if we are actually getting power and ground. Also, I've got the mobile workshop out, so this is quite handy to have. Right, so you've got to turn the engine, well no, you've got to turn the ignition on, so I imagine you've also got to connect the battery. Okay, so the ignition is on, so I think what you do is you ground this out. So I'm just getting my multimeter, and all I'm going to do is just probe the connections on the inside of this cable. So there's connections on the inside there, the terminals, just to see if we're getting battery voltage. I'm going to ground out. No, I'm going to find somewhere to put this where those wires, the minging wires, aren't touching anything metallic. No, wait, put this on deep. Boop. that was. On that, and test that. 12.5 volts. Steady 12.5 volts. That's pin 2. Hang on, so pin 1, nothing. That's terminal 5, nothing. I'm working around in a weird way here. What's that? 3, nothing. So it looks like, no, what's going on now? Why are you right, hang on, wait, I'll back in 1 sec. I just need to check something. Turn the ignition key to on, but do not start the engine. Set the multimeter to measure DC voltage. Yeah. Connect the black lead to chassis ground on the wiring harness. If any of them read 12 volts, that pin is a supply voltage. If any of them read 5 volts, that pin is a reference voltage. So 1, no. Oh, hang on, it's because I've set the range at something silly, that's why. Ah, right, okay. 1. Pin 1, 0 volts. Pin 2, 0. Okay, pin 1, 0 volts. Pin 2, 0 volts. 3, 0 volts. 4, 0 volts. 5, 0. I'm not getting anything. I'm not getting a reference voltage and I'm not getting a supply voltage. I'm just getting 0 volts on all of the terminals. So it's got to be this cable then, hasn't it? It has to be this cable. I think that is diagnosed the fact that this cable is dead. Huh, have I just diagnosed something? For like the first time ever? I think I have. Honestly, get this book. Get this book, it's absolutely fantastic. These incredible circuit diagram drawing illustration thingers. Link in the description below where you can get that. Okay, so I'm just giving this another go because I think I actually had a bad ground on the first couple of goes there. 1, nothing. Pin 2. Right, no, so now I've got the ground sorted out. If I put this into terminal 2, I'm getting 12.3 volts. Terminal 1, 0. Skipping ahead, terminal 3, 0. 4, 0. 5, I'm getting 0.1 volts. And that's the throttle body. Right, so I've just been playing around a little bit more because I was getting all sorts of bonkers readings. So what I was doing with the connector here is I was testing for voltage and I'm also checking for continuity on the pins just to see if we've got ground, and I did have continuity. And then I kind of moved the cable over there and I came back and then I was doing some other stuff and then I checked it again and I didn't have continuity and I was like, oh, what the hell's going on? So I checked it again, didn't have it, moved the cable around, then I did have it. And then I was checking for power, then I didn't have power, then I did have power, and then I realised, well, I think it's pretty obvious, isn't it? Every time I move the cable around and I'm moving and kind of rearranging these cables here, I think something's touching, they're not touching. You know, I'm getting over limit on the continuity readings, the resistance readings, so I'm not getting the ground. But then when I kind of move these around, I then get the readings. So I think it's pretty obvious, to me anyway, I think. I mean, obviously comment below if I'm missing something glaringly obvious. This is the first time I've ever done any kind of like electrical work or electrical diagnoses. If I'm missing something, please shout, but to me it's this wiring is shot, you know, because right up until the point that the engine actually cuts out, it's running fine. It doesn't sound like it's misfiring, it's not running particularly rough, you know, the revs come up, but then it does settle down just a little bit. So that's why I think that, you know, the ECU is just kind of using some set values for airflow rather than what's actually coming from the sensor, right up to the point he goes, right, look, I'm not getting anything, I can't run like this the whole time, so I'm just cutting out, and that's why it's like it cuts out after what, like a minute 10 seconds. All right, so I mean, this is equal parts great news and equal parts just the worst thing that could ever happen, because well, I know what the issue is, but I don't really know how to fix it. I suppose it's probably going to be a bit like having schizophrenia. You're like, oh, that's why I do all those completely mental things. Okay, but how do I fix that? Like, I'm in a bit of a bind. Okay, so then the next thing I'm going to have to do, I suppose, with the aid of my textbook, the aid of some online courses and some online training, I am going to try and work out how to wire in a whole new cable. So like I've said already, this goes right down there and it goes into this big back plug there for the ECU. So I'm going to have to obviously pull all that off and try and determine which cable it is, and then rewire it into the ECU plug. That's no small feat for someone who's never done any electrics work, but you know, we'll give it a go, mate. And you know, the interesting one is I'm going to have to do this out here. Now I know I've said multiple times in different videos that I need to get this car put away in the space that you normally see me do all the work on, but I'm not sure if any of you actually saw my post from the other day, but I've actually gone and bought another project car, completely sight unseen. I just saw it on eBay. Buy it now, had it delivered. It's yeah, it's it's a little bit rotten, let's just say that, shall we? And so I'm going to be introducing that project in the next video that you'll see, and then so you're going to start seeing, I think, this Merc and this new project car. God, I nearly said what it was then. And this new project car, I'm going to intersperse the contents. You might see a couple of I nearly said it again. a couple of the new project car, and then a couple of the Merc, and I'm gonna go like that. Right, lots to do, lots to think about. I suppose I'm just gonna have to see you in the next one.